Okay, today we are playing a game on VoD. The average SR of this game was 2,190, and we will be playing about half the game as Zenyatta and about half of the game as Junkrat. There is also a little bit of Torbjorn, Moira, and Pharah in there, but when I say a little bit, I do mean, like, collectively it probably totals a minute and a half for all of them. So, not really a big thing. Our current team composition is Reinhardt, Orisa, Hanzo, Widowmaker, Mercy, and Zenyatta. So it is, of course, terrible, because we have the two snipers as our DPS. And Hanzo isn't, like, really a sniper, even though he's categorized as being a sniper. He isn't really, but whatever, we have both the snipers. So, the snipers are already not that good on defense, because the attacking team tends to speed through too quickly for the defending snipers to actually really do anything. Unless they're gods. We're in gold SR. They aren't gods. So they tend to be worse on defense, generally, anyway. And we have both of them. So we're going to have a lot of trouble holding the choke point on this map, unless they are both incredible snipers. They are not both incredible snipers. So let's start the game. Other than that, you know, we've got a Mercy, we got a tank. That's the important thing, honestly. So, D.Va's up in here right now, and we're coming over to try and fight off the D.Va. She does appear to be in there by herself, so we're not overly scared about it, but then we do cut back in front of the choke point again. Like, this is already, man, we aren't actually, like, on YouTube right now. We're on flowfeedback.com, and the seek amount is, like, really weird. So, this is, like, not really our job to come over here and try to deal with this as Zenyatta, because usually when you think about people who are meant to go and try and deal with people flanking you, doesn't tend to be Zenyatta. But it's not the end of the world that we come to try and do it. But then we do, like, cut back in front of the choke point again while there's no one here. You don't generally want to cut in front of the choke point ever, because it's really easy to get killed doing that, especially when you're a big lumbering kind of character, like Zenyatta is. I mean, Zenyatta's not big, but he's not, like, tank big, but, like, he's literally a floating box. Like, he is very easy to hit, and you're just float in front of the choke point, like the duck in the fairground game. Don't want to do that. It's already, like, not really our job to go and deal with that anyway, but it was just a D.Va, so... So, they are indeed starting to get through the choke point now, because our team is quite low presence. Again, this is, like, not really our area to come and try and deal with this. I would definitely not recommend coming down here to try and fight the Pharah. If you know she's down here, you know, you can, like, keep an eye on that area, but you don't want to go into her. She ends up being terrible, and we kill her, so we end up, like, not getting punished for it. But if the Pharah is better, you die for this, because, as we established, Zenyatta's really easy to hit, and Pharah doesn't even need to directly hit you. Pharah has a really easy time killing Zenyatta, and we're, like, coming into her, so don't generally recommend going in to try and fight people as Zenyatta, because Zenyatta is not the greatest duelist in the world. Zenyatta's weapon doesn't have any fall-off damage, so and he's very immobile and very easy to kill. So usually you want to be really far back. Like, we don't even need to be this close, really. We can be standing back on the other end of the street, basically, and still be doing everything we're doing, but be safer, because we'd be further away from the enemy team, which means you are harder to kill, generally. As long as you are within range to put Harmony Orb and Discord Orb on people, you are in Zenyatta's effective range, and you want to be as far back as possible. So again, we're going off to try and find this lady, and this is just not recommended to do this. Like, again, she's terrible, so we don't get punished for it, but, like, if the Pharah is just better than terrible, you die for this. Unless you're also a god, and just, like, headshot her twice, but, I mean, not necessarily the most consistent. I wouldn't recommend it. So they now also have a Widowmaker. That's scary to us as Zenyatta, because we are really easy for Widowmaker to kill. let me tell you a story of when Overwatch launched, right? So, when the game released, Zenyatta had 150 hit points. He had 50 health and 100 shields. So he had Tracer health. And Widowmaker, as a result, could just kill him. Because you could just hit him anywhere on his body with a charged up shot, and it would kill Zenyatta. So he was actually like the worst hero in the game. Also, there was a point in time, this exact same time, Zenyatta's Transcendence did not have a speed buff attached to it. It used to just be the healing aura. So as a result, Zenyatta was this 150 health hero that had to kind of stand close to the front line if Transcendence was ever going to do anything, but Widowmaker could just kill you by hitting you. And, of course, this just made it easier for everyone else to kill him as well. It's like, a direct hit is most of his health, right? But, as a result, he was the worst hero in the game, and Widowmaker was actually quite strong on release as well. She actually got nerfed not long after. So, there was this point in time when Zenyatta was can you just imagine being 150 health as Zenyatta? Already really easy to die as Zenyatta, but you just straight up had 50 less health, and Transcendence didn't have its speed boost, so you had to stand closer to people. Those were the Dark Ages. In beta, he had, this was all true, but he had the distinction of his orbs persisting even if you didn't have line of sight, which made him really strong, even in spite of those parts. So, this is why, in beta, the strongest team comp was 2 Zenyatas, 2 flankers, and whatever your choice of tanks were. Generally, a Winston and, a Zarya. And you would just put the Harmony Orb on the 2 flankers, and they would go. And they would be basically unkillable. And then it was really hard to deal with that in beta. Assuming the enemy team played it well. This was mostly, professional player type thing. But Zenyatta was can you imagine Harmony Orb and Discord Orb just staying on people, even after line of sight is broken? Oh. But then they took that away, didn't buff his health, didn't buff Transcendence, so he was the worst hero on release because he was just so fragile. There was no real point to that. I just, because we're a year and a half into Overwatch's release, it's quite a lot of people probably don't know that, about the Dark Ages at this point. Yeah, man. Overwatch used to be a lot worse than it is right now, if you can believe it. And yet, it was also better because there were the community as a whole was less overbearingly toxic. But there was no hero limit in competitive, and Zenyatta had 150 health, and, It was sad times. So, we are losing ground steadily because our team is quite low presence. We're slowly getting pushed back further and further. Pharah just killed our Widowmaker, which is of course quite sad because that's not how that matchup's meant to go. So we're currently running after this Tracer at 23 hit points. We should not be doing that. We should be backing up into the house behind us to pick up the health kit. Bare minimum, we should not be going after the Tracer because, oh god, could she kill us really easily. Or just anyone else on their team as well. In general, we do quite a bit of, walking into people that we're shooting at. Zenyatta's weapon's got no fall-off damage. You can stand really far back and be within your effective range. So, we're pretty screwed. Just also a thing with Transcendence. You obviously want to be in your team when you're using Transcendence, but you don't want to come out of Transcendence right next to the entire enemy team because they'll kill you. So as Transcendence is ending, you want to start backing up so you don't just pop out of Transcendence right in front of the enemy team and immediately die.
They're gonna get that point.
You do still want, your team to benefit from the fact you're using Transcendence, but you also don't want to immediately die after Transcendence ends, because that's slightly suboptimal. So we almost died right there, and that was very scary. Here comes the tire. Tire did not come for us. It was a good day. So, we should not really be trying to do that, where we're trying to fight the Widowmaker, because
Winston,
you're not favored in that matchup. It's like when the Ana tries to snipe the Widowmaker. You are, like, drastically not favored in that fight. You usually just want to try and avoid being in Widowmaker's line of sight as much as possible. Because she's only got to hit you once, or she can just body shot you once and then shoot you again, and you die. Which is not hard as Zenyatta, because again, you're a giant floating cube. So, our Mercy is currently dead, which is very sad, because we are only Zenyatta, which makes it difficult to heal. However, not that many of their team are around right now. Sombra is, like, down there, low health, and we don't seem to notice that she's, like, in the catacomb behind us, low health. She's, like, next to a health kit, so I probably wouldn't go out of my way to try and put the Harmony Orb on her, but, like, probably should have gone out of our way to put the Harmony Orb on her. Because she is walking around down there at critical health. So, Reinhardt's dead. We do not need to be this close, again. Like, Moira shouldn't even get this opportunity to try and diddle us, because we can be on the opposite end of the street, and be doing everything we're doing right now, but be drastically safer because we're way away from the enemy team. And then Moira would not even get the chance to do that to us, because we would be so far away. This is a very terrible res, and this is a very terrible transcendence, because she was resing us into a situation we were likely to immediately die for, and now we're using Transcendence to basically do nothing except stall the point for like 6 seconds. Which is not the greatest use of Transcendence in the world. The reason Transcendence is strong is because it completely negates most offensive ultimates, right? Attack Visor, Dragon Blade, even Barrage, like it can block Graviton. It cancels those out. We don't really want to use Transcendence just to, like, stall the point. The point is to, like, heal up all your team or deny ultimates. So we've been rezzed into that really sad situation, but fortunately the invulnerability lasted just long enough for us to not die to the explosion. However, things are still bad. Harmony Orb currently not on anybody, which is bad efficiency. It can definitely be on someone, and you always want it on someone. Like, our Harmony Orb has just straight up not been on anybody. You want your orbs up as much as possible. Discord Orb you're not going to feasibly be able to have up 100% of the time, because you have to actually see the enemy team, and if they're resetting or something like that, you're not actually going to get to do that. But Harmony Orb you can always have up. It shouldn't just be not on anybody. So we're moving into them again while we're half health, which is bad. And we get away with it for a while, but then we just skirt past this diva, and she's just like, oh, sick, and just like, easiest kill in the world, tracks this floating box across your line of sight. You don't need to be close to people as Zenyatta. You can be really far away, and you definitely shouldn't be walking into the enemy team to try and do damage to them. Weapon has no fall-off damage. You can be really far back. So, we shouldn't even come out, because that's what's going to happen. Our entire team is currently dead. There's no reason to even go out the doorway, because that point is gone. And that point is now indeed gone. So their team is quite scary for Zenyatta, because they have Widowmaker, Tracer, and Junkrat. All of these things make it quite easy to just suddenly die as Zenyatta. So we finally have a shield in front of us right now that we can stand behind. We should not be running after this Tracer to try and kill her, because that's not what we're good at. We also shouldn't be standing in this room, because it's hard to run away if we have to. Because imagine now the enemy team suddenly dives past us, which they look like they are about to do, seeing as this dude's using sound barrier right now. Imagine they just suddenly start diving past this way. How do we get out of that situation as Zenyatta then, once they're in front of this? Our options are go out the doorway here or go out the doorway over there. Both of these ways would take you right through the enemy team. So coming into this room as Zenyatta is a bad idea, because if they start the fight, you're like sequestered into this really small space where it's really easy for people to come in and kill you. And your only avenue of escape is right through the enemy team. So we should not be doing this. And again, we can just be standing really far back because we're playing Zenyatta. That ends up not happening because they don't actually go in off of the sound barrier, and then we use Transcendence. It's just slightly too late to use the Orisa. if you're thinking about using Transcendence for something like that, you gotta use it sooner rather than later, because later the person is dead. Generally, you don't want to use Transcendence to, like, try and save one person's life if you can avoid it, because, like, Transcendence is the best defensive ultimate in the game, because it just does completely null out certain ultimates. None of the enemy team actually has it. The enemy team doesn't have any of the really big ultimates to stop, so using it to save one person isn't that terrible in this situation. If they have, like, a soldier or a Genji, you definitely don't want to, but, if you are going to use it to try and save one person who's low health, you gotta do it sooner rather than later, because otherwise you end up just doing nothing with the ultimate. So we should not be corner peeking when we're low health as Zenyatta, because we're already easy to kill, because we are a floating box. But then peeking a corner at like 50 health just makes it even easier to die. Like, your health regenerates, just like stay out of the way until you aren't super likely to die from just, like, a stray bullet hitting you, you know? Zenyatta's already really easy to kill. You don't need to give the enemy team an easier time killing you. So, yeah, we don't hold this, point, but they are gonna get it. Did they get it there just in overtime, or just over overtime?
The jump good at the end, it's just we needed her, you know...
Oh, just before overtime. That is absolutely, by, like, fractions of a second. That is, we do play 4 rounds on this map. They had 0.4 seconds left. That's, even though that seems like, oh, whatever, right? Like, it does matter, because the way overtime works, if one team finishes in overtime, but the other team finishes with more than a minute left, the team that finished in overtime does not get the extension on a hybrid or 2CP map. If it's on payload, you always get the extension no matter what. But on a hybrid or 2CP map, if one team is overtime and the other team has more than a minute left, the overtime team doesn't get the time extension. However, if they have even 0.1 seconds, they will get the time extension regardless. So, it seems like something that never will matter, but it can end up giving them an opportunity to win where they would not normally be able to have an opportunity to try and win. Because they would not have gotten time extension. It is very rarely relevant, but it can be relevant. We actually end up winning this match. Spoiler warning. A rare situation where an Eichenwald map goes 4 entire rounds. Because usually, one team stalls out massively on the first or third checkpoint and never gets it to the end. So now we've entered the Junkrat phase of the game, and boy are we going in right now. We are very behind them. Yeah, we're on floodfeedback.com. So here I had 2 choices. A, I go to the point to get them off choke, or B, I take out Widow. I chose B because I thought Widow would have picked me off. Generally, if you're going back to contest the objective as a flanker, you want to actually be a flanker. If you're Junkrat, they can just kind of collapse on you and you're easier to kill. So, yeah, going for the Widow is better than going to try and contest the point, because otherwise they turn around and they're like, oh, it's only Junkrat. And then, yeah, like, Widowmaker would not have a hard time killing you. We don't want to be, like, going into the, like, melee form in the enemy team right now, because that makes it really easy to die, which is exactly what happens. Because, you know, she's not looking at, she's got no clue. How could she ever see this coming, frankly? So, we can just, like, shoot her, throw the bomb at her, and then back up. Like, we then proceed to keep walking into the enemy team, which makes it really easy for them to kill us, because then we're just standing around in the middle of them throwing bombs around. And then Mercy ends up getting super baited trying to res us as well. Like, we don't want to really go melee form in the middle of the enemy team. It could have ended up, like, we got the Widow, and that's great. You know, picking somebody off for free is cool. We could have perhaps done more, but we went in really aggressively when we could have chosen not to. Sadly, just barely didn't get over the roof to keep fighting, because most of their team is actually dead right now, so we do want to keep trying to apply pressure to them. Here's Tracer. We don't quite get Tracer with the concussive mine, which is very sad, because she would have died. Junkrat is really good against Tracer, because, well, and Genji, because of concussive mine, which is just 120 damage. no big deal. Even though, like, on paper, the flankers are meant to counter Junkrat, since they buffed him to have 2 charges of Concussive Mine, Junkrat is actually really good against both flankers, because, well, both flankers. Junkrat, not Pharah. Reaper, that's the one. Genji, Tracer, and Reaper he's really good against, because he always has a charge of Concussive Mine, which is just like, well, they're fucked up, and they gotta be careful now. Moira's a scary one to go with for the tire, unless you know Fade is on cooldown, because that exact situation can end up happening. We got her in the end, though. So we don't have one of our charges of Concussive Mine, which means we don't get to kill Tracer. However, we got to kill Lucia with our body, so that's cool. We are, like, going real up to people to fight, which we don't really need to, again, because Junkrat's not like a super long-range fighter, but you also don't need to go out and basically be touching them, either. Because you can still, like, throw bombs from pretty far away, and Junkrat's got a pretty good arm on him. He can toss that mine pretty far. Can you imagine if Tracer didn't have the weakest ass throw in the game? This fucking, like, lame underhand lob she does. Could you imagine if Tracer had, like, the arm Junkrat does, or, God forbid, the arm Ana does, right? Fucking, like, 70-year-old woman just fucking pitches that canister across the map. And then you got Tracer, sprightly, like, 20-year-old, like, Come on, Tracer.
I mean, if she's in your trap, why don't you have a bomb?
So, we have managed to not end up capturing the point, even though we had some momentum going, which is very sad.
Alright. I'm popping
but their Tracer is now dead, so that's great. They are currently 5v6. Here comes their Junkrat. Because they have a Junkrat, we shouldn't really be standing in this tiny little room, because their Junkrat would very much like if we were standing in the tiny little room, because that makes it easy for him to kill us, because he can just bounce bombs into the room. Now Junkrat's dead, now we don't have to worry about that. They're missing both their DPS right now. So we can just kinda go in. And, well, okay, that both their DPS, they also have a Widowmaker, right, my bad. So here's Moira. Don't do that. If you're gonna chuck your mine at someone, you have to be really sure it's gonna kill them. Because if it doesn't kill them, you can end up saving their life. Like right there. Because Moira suddenly ends up there like, oh, I'd love to be up here, actually. Like, if you're gonna throw your mine at somebody, you want the mine to kill them. Because if we just, like, hit her before we throw the mine at her, that doesn't have to happen right there. And, you know, we're in the middle of a fight, so, like, yeah, she's probably taking some damage, but, like, you wanna know it's gonna kill her so that that can't end up happening. Not just her, like, anyone in general, really, because I've been saved many times because of Junkrat's mine sending me off somewhere. Just the other day, I killed a Junkrat on Eichenwald because of it as well, because I was playing, Zarya. And he was on, like, the platform on the other side of this, right? We were defending, and he was on the platform on the other side of the wall. And I was under it. He threw the mine down at me. It put me on the wall with him. And I'm, like, 70% charged Zarya, and he was just like, I'm not really sure what I'm meant to do right now, and I killed him. And I was like, sick. Thanks, Junkrat. You can really, it couldn't really have gone much worse on that mine. Jump right there. It's okay, we've got our ult now, so we're gonna send it in. I like how, Junkrat's Christmas skin is actually just another summer skin, because, Australians don't really have Christmas.
I know they have.
I mean, they have Christmas, but they're in Australia, you know? So, ended up being really low health and stuck up here, but it's okay. Moira sent her orb up there to heal us, which I would have definitely not done if I was playing Moira, so she's more benevolent than me. This is a drastically aggressive maneuver. I'm not strictly speaking against it, but you've gotta be really sure you're gonna execute it correctly if you're gonna go for a play that bold. Because the penalty for fucking it up is really steep. And the potential gain is not necessarily that high. You know, you killed Torbjorn while we're not... don't do this. It's molten core turret. Now is definitely not the time. Killing Torbjorn while the payload is down here is not necessarily the greatest, because he'll definitely get back to fight again. Whereas the penalty for you dying in that situation is like, well, now we get to not have any real momentum for a little while. So, Mercy currently dead, very sad for us indeed, and we're starting to run out of time. We're going to come up here and try and fight their Junkrat. Again, I'm not strictly speaking against it, but you gotta be really sure it works out. Again, we end up, like, saving Torbjorn rather than killing him, which is less than ideal. Ideally, we would have killed him also. Again, if you're gonna chuck your mine at someone, make sure the mine's gonna kill them, because otherwise you end up saving them. Like, right there, we've hit him once with the bomb. Okay, the mine's gonna finish him off, no problem. If you're gonna use the concussive blast, like, aggressively, you wanna try and use it to, like, execute them, basically. Because using it if they're not low enough to just get executed by it can save their life. And we don't want to be that guy. We don't want the enemy team to be thinking, thanks, Junkrat! So, we got the ult, sent it in, got Tracer, didn't manage to finish off the Orisa, which is very sad, and she actually manages to limp away from the fight, which is even sadder.
Get this Torb.
Here comes Torbjorn again. We chucked the mine at him while he's not going to get finished by the mine, so it ended up making things pretty awkward, but he went into us that time instead of away from us, so it was not that bad. Playing Junkrat, shoot the turret. Oh no, here comes their tire. Don't quite manage to kill it with the concussive mine, but he also didn't manage to kill anybody with it, so great times for us as well. We are now in overtime, so we have to just keep touching the point, or lose. We all know how it is, never feels very good. Fortunately, Junkrat's not the worst hero in the game to have coming and touching the point, because then when you come on it to try and contest him, it's really easy for him to hit you. So we're currently walking into the molten core turret. No, 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 don't,
Tracer's behind.
I don't even care that it was fat-fingered. Like, don't go into the molten core turret, because the molten core turret is extremely scary. You don't need to see the turret to hit it as Junkrat. Like, don't be walking into it, because, oh no, the molten core turret is really scary. So we've managed to get it to the checkpoint. I've already spoiled the outcome of the game, so that will be no surprise. And yes, we actually managed to get it to the end. And not quite in overtime, though it wouldn't matter because they had 0.4 seconds left, so we were always going to get it. We were always going to get the extension as well. Concussive Mine ends up getting a triple kill in the Graviton, which feels good, man. Not one that usually happens. It's like when you see the Graviton happens and you see Soldier get like a triple kill with Helix Rocket. You're like, whoa, that's unusual. So now they just have to, like, rush out of their spawn to try and touch the objective, because, you know. So the Graviton plus triple kill ended up being really convenient. We end up not killing Mercy with the, chuck on the mine, which is, you know, sad, but, like, they're in full-on, like, oh no, worst case situation territory, so it was not really great for them. So now we have entered the Torbjorn phase, the Toblerone phase. Sweden is similar to Germany, so you know he kind of fits in on this map. You know, they're Germanic origins. Building our turret way back here. If I'm to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know the best Torbjorn strats in the world, so don't necessarily expect super in-depth analysis on turret placement and such, because I don't know. But they've got a Winston. Winston is pretty not scary to us as Torbjorn, because we have a shotgun. We are currently, like, we don't want to really get super close to people as Torbjorn, because Torbjorn is really easy to headshot, pretty easy to hit in general, and can attack from further away. Like, you can just sit and left-click people, and his left-click is, like, pretty strong, actually. And their team would generally like us to be closer to them. And we can just sit back and, you know, shoot at them from further away, repair our turret, pick away at them, throw armor at people. no need to get super close and risk getting picked off by the dive comp, basically. Because the benefit of the dive comp is that they kind of have to come to us, so there's not usually much reason for us to go into them. Now we don't want them to capture the point, so we're kind of coming forward probably to try and contest it more than anything else. Which is fine, because they're also not really going super well for them. We have now exited the Torbjorn phase. We are now playing Moira. We have gone from someone I have almost no confidence in talking about to someone I'm very confident in talking about. Because I've basically played nothing but Moira since she came out. And according to Overbuff, I'm like one of the top 500 Moira players, which is pretty sick. I'm not actually in top 500 or anything, but out of the all of the Moira players, my stats are like top 500, so I'm very confident talking about Moira. Humble brag. So, where did we chuck our orb? I was kind of just... Okay, we just chucked it in. Fair enough. So, Zarya is dead already, which is suboptimal. We've got a Mercy. It's alright. She's alive again now, so no big deal. We're currently being really bad with our resources, because we're just kind of holding it down over people who are not hurt right now, in general. And now we're just not even holding it down over our team, so we're almost out of resources immediately. And their team is going to make it hard for us to actually regen resources against, because they have shields and just... Torbjorn, annoying. Playing Moira, you want to have your regen, do as much healing as possible. Like, if someone's in the middle of a fight, alright, like, because we're really out of resource right now, because we've been bad with management, there's nothing we can do to help this Mercy. Even though, realistically, we should be able to save her life, because Moira's healing output is really high, but we need to heal her, and like, we have no resources left, like... You want the regen to do as much healing as possible. You only really want to hold the left click over people if they're in the middle of a fight. Or you just need them healed up very urgently for one reason or another. Like they're about to push in, and you don't think you've got enough time to let the regen do most of the healing. Like, you don't want to just hold left click over people constantly. Because that's bad for resource management. So now we're playing Pharah. As you can see, this is why they were not on the thumbnail. So we are now doing the Pharah trick, you know, where you get behind the enemy team and you stand on the objective, and then they're like, oh fuck, we gotta come back and touch it. And we kill Moira, the rest of them kind of get killed as they're coming back to fight us. Hey, we won their game. Cool, 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 cool. Who got play of the game? Thought it might have actually been us with the concussive mine that got the triple kill. Hey, it's the Graviton that took place. It's because she did more damage, but even though the concussive mine ended up getting the kills in the end. Oh, and then she ran that lady down. Yeah. So we did it. It was a long-ass game because it was a fucking Eichenwald game that went 4 rounds. Oh, God. So, there wasn't really one huge overarching thing that stood out. The thing that stood out the most was, like, we generally are, like, way closer than we need to be. Zenyatta in particular, we're way closer than we need to be, and we do a lot of, like, walking into the enemy team, which you definitely don't want to do with Zenyatta, because long-range hero, easy to kill, don't want to be close to them. And then a bunch of other stuff we talked about as it happened, so I'm not going to belabor the point because the video's already pretty long. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.